Guild Wars 2 is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG for short, released by ArenaNet in 2012. In this game, the player controls a character of their own creation who is tasked with saving the world of Tyria from complete annihilation by dragons of unimaginable power, all while exploring the world alongside thousands of other players. Ever since its release, Guild Wars 2 has been known for the many ways it innovates in regards to MMORPGs, especially in the way that it has the potential to deeply tap into every aspect of what can be described as play, more than a lot of other games in the genre. Now, as a bit of context, there was this famous French sociologist called Roger Caillois, who wrote a book way back in 1958. This book was titled Man, Play and Games, and in it he highlights 4 distinct aspects of play, one of which is illinks. Illinks is probably the most interesting form of play that has been implemented in Guild Wars 2. This aspect is described as vertigo or physically based play and can cause disorientation or distort one's perception to induce certain emotions such as fear, anxiety, or adrenaline. Guild Wars 2 may not include any physical aspects at all, but in a way it does have the potential in its gameplay to induce a sense of adrenaline, anxiety, or fear through its various degrees of verticality. Ever since its release, Guild Wars 2 had a large focus on player movement, with jumping puzzles and mini-dungeons spread throughout the open world that would challenge players' precision jumping and puzzle-solving skills in various ways. Some of them would involve unique obstacles that could reset a player's whole progress, or dark, confined spaces filled with enemies and traps. Depending on the player, these situations can induce varying levels of fear, anxiety, or adrenaline through the use of the game's unique focus on multi-directional movement, something that most other MMORPGs tend to ignore. In his book, Caillois also described 2 other types of play, ludus and paideia. The former is used to describe rule-bound, structured activities, whereas the latter is all about improvisational, spontaneous, and free-form play. In its unique design, Guild Wars 2 is able to tap into both of these quite deeply, in a way that no other MMO has really done before. Like with most MMORPGs, Guild Wars 2 has the rules and mechanics such as specific gear stats, gear restrictions, class-bound skills, and level caps. However, in most cases, that's where the similarities end, regarding the ludus-based gameplay. The game completely does away with the traditional RPG-like quests, where the player would be required to talk to a certain NPC to activate an objective. Instead, Guild Wars 2 offers much more player freedom with renown hearts and dynamic events. Renown hearts are the most similar thing the game has to a quest system, but all the player needs to do to complete it is be in the general vicinity of said heart, where they can complete a multitude of tasks in no specific order to achieve completion. Dynamic events, on the other hand, are objectives that will pop up either at a set time or just randomly in a certain area of the map, and players can come and join in and assist with them at any time while they're running. These 2 unique systems place much more of an emphasis on the paideia side of gameplay, and sets Guild Wars 2 apart from its competitors by utilising a well-balanced ratio of both types of play. As it is with most MMORPGs, a major part of Guild Wars 2 is the social aspect within the game. However, while games of this particular genre in the past essentially forced players to group up with each other to progress through important content, it is not so much the case anymore due to them including more soloable content for more casual audiences. And Guild Wars 2 is no exception. However, the game does this in a way that still encourages social interaction without players realising it. Earlier in the video, I talked about the game's dynamic events and how it gave people the option to jump in and out of such events whenever they please. This is one way that it encourages social interaction between players, even those who are more casual and focused on solo content. While some dynamic events can be soloed, there are many which require more than one player to either assist with timed mechanics or to share aggro so that the one person isn't being attacked the whole time. These events give players the opportunity to jump in and give others a hand as they're passing by, even if it wasn't their original intent to participate in such an activity at the time, therefore simulating cooperative group activity without it being an organised group. There are also large-scale events such as world bosses or meta events which run at set times, meaning that people will gather in one place without any prior communication to wait for such an event to start. Whether by intentional design or not, these periods of waiting prior to these events in a way encourage conversation and socialization because, as studies have shown, Players will constantly seek workarounds and external support in order to fulfill their need to socialize. Impromptu roleplay, friendly banter, and the occasional argument usually fill up the game's local chat box as players who have never met before decide to socialize as a way to pass the time before the event starts. Another aspect of Guild Wars 2 that facilitates to social interaction are the so-called hub areas. These are areas in the game world where just about every player goes to access a majority of essential services. The main hub area in the game, Lion's Arch, provides just about every service available within the game, such as the trading post, account bank, guild services, crafting, and many more. However, Lion's Arch is not just a stopover point for players wanting to sell their loot or craft some gear, but is also a major hub of social interaction within Guild Wars 2. This can be attributed to the techniques such as sense of space or placemaking, which studies have shown to play a central role in fostering social interaction in online spaces. For example, well-architected physical environments such as plazas have a greater likelihood of unplanned informal encounters as they tend to attract more people. As it is, Lion's Arch is exactly that. A large city-like area which attracts people and provides unique spaces and landmarks where social interaction is possible. Coupled with the large population of players using its services, Lion's Arch is a prime example of how Guild Wars 2 subtly encourages the social aspect of MMORPGs. Amongst the MMORPG market, Guild Wars 2 is still a fairly unique and innovative title to this day, which can be seen through both its use of the earlings aspect of play and its ability to provide both rule-based and free-form gameplay. Added to the way it encourages and fosters social interaction through both open-world events and its major hub area, contributes substantially to how and why Guild Wars 2 still has such a large community of active players almost 7 years after its release.